This offseason, the NCAA introduced 3 new rule changes for player safety, while the NFL introduced 4 changes and new points of emphasis for the referees. This is a yearly routine for each league, but have the results started to show yet? In 2017, the NFL reported their highest number of concussions since they started keeping track. That high number relates to the emphasis on diagnosing concussions from the sidelines, but concussions still almost doubled the next most common injury. The University of Florida's Sports Concussion Center has spurred the NCAA to make some of their past rule changes. The clinic, which is one of the few in the country that specializes in concussion research, came out with a study in 2016 which led to reduced practices and more special teams rule changes. Zach Hauk is the clinical and research coordinator for the center. He worked on 2 2016 reports for the clinic. One focused on the dangerous rates of concussions on kickoffs, something both the NCAA and the NFL has changed multiple times throughout the last decade. This year in college football, the receiving team can call a fair catch on a ball within the 25-yard line, and that team will start their possession on the 25-yard line regardless of where the fair catch was called. In the NFL, the kicking team no longer has running head starts on kickoffs. The other report Hauk worked on was the most common month for head injuries during practice.
So August has the highest rate, and a lot of that probably just has to do with before this rule change, there was just more contact practices occurring during that time. So again, there's a lot of intensity in those practices. You have a lot of athletes trying to find, starting positions or, earn more playing time. You got a lot of young guys coming up as well trying to kind of prove themselves.
Repeated contact is a concern overlooked by many when it comes to player safety. Smaller blows to the head over and over again can lead to a concussion as much as one giant hit can. In 2017, the NCAA banned having more than one contact practice per day.
That practices consisted of over 70% of athlete exposure, so if you can cut down on the amount of times that athletes are exposed to contact during those practices, then chances are you're going to decrease some of the concussions that we'll see. But again, there's probably not a whole lot that they can do during games to cut down on them.
While there's not much they can do to stop the hits during a game on offense and defense, special teams already looks drastically different than it did 5 years ago. Last season, in the Ivy League, they moved the kickoffs from 35 to the 40-yard line. And in a study done by the University of Pennsylvania, it was found that this reduced the number of concussions from 11 per 1,000 plays to 2 concussions per 1,000 plays. While this move to the 40 is too new for bigger conferences or even the NFL, Dr. Stephen Dukowski, who has a long history with the NFL and concussion research, doesn't expect the play to go away anytime soon. Dukowski was portrayed by Eddie Marzan in the 2015 film Concussion. He was a second author on Bennett Omalu's now famous research on CTE. Omalu was the doctor played by Will Smith.
I think it's likely that anything that stops those kinds of things, as well as runbacks on punts, would probably be helpful. The problem is that those are 2 of the most exciting plays in football, and everyone, fans and players, are reluctant to see them go away completely.
While the future of special teams plays are in doubt, it's been speculated that the future of the game may be in doubt as well. High school participation dropped each year, and according to the National Federation of State High School Associations, it's dropped 6.6% over the last decade.
Well, any damage that's done before the brain is finished growing has an interesting set of dueling effects. The first is, of course, you don't want to damage a young growing brain. The second is that young growing brains are really plastic. So for really young kids, it is a difficult decision to make about whether to play them. My own view is I actually worry more about the necks of these children because of the helmets they wear than actually the helmets, because they don't have the speed and acceleration, the weight and power that happens in college, high-level college football or in the pros.
The high school level has made a number of rule changes to spell these concerns. Florida state policy states a school can't go back-to-back days with padded practices. Head coach Scott McDaniel of the St. Francis Wolves in Gainesville, Florida, has seen a comeback in participation over the last couple of years due to the increased rules and awareness.
There was definitely a lull, and we're still fighting it to some extent because there's a lot of negative publicity about head injuries. But I think that we have kind of turned the corner there. I was really worried for a while. There was a belief that lacrosse was a physical sport that was less dangerous. I think that that's been proven false over the course of time. Anytime you have people running into each other or hitting each other with sticks, there's going to be head injuries.
With the reduced practices on every level, concerns about the quality of play arise. The Wolves only go full pads once a week and don't even practice kickoffs. McDaniel knows that's something each coach just has to prepare for differently now.
When we're not making contact with one another, when we're using, we have some dummies and things that we like to use for certain things, we try to make sure we're going full speed running into those so that at least the guys are moving at the speed of the game, if nothing else.
As more awareness, research, and rule changes come about, there remains hope that the future of football will improve. McDaniel is hopeful that the next generation of players and coaches can bring about a safer game.
We were taught a certain way, so obviously when I start coaching, how do I teach it? The way I was taught it. And then as I change, I'm able to teach you differently, right? So when you become a coach as a young guy, you're going to teach it the way you learned it, right? So the game will evolve in that direction as the old guard, if you will, learns the new way, teaches the new guys the new way, and those guys learn it the new way and are able to teach it going forward.
For ESPN Gainesville, I'm Charles White.